وبركاته. Can you hear me, ladies? I hope you do. عليكم السلام جميعا. Thank you so much for your attendance. Today we are, yes, that's good. I'm glad you can receive me well. Nice, you are all here, mashallah. Thank you so much for your attendance and for your reply. Today we are going to proceed with what we started last time. Last time we introduced the concept of modernism. We talked about the context of its appearance, and we looked at one other sub-concept or sub-movement which makes
Recording in progress.
Tackling for the first time. At that time, by the time it was published, a point which was considered something new for a British or an English writer to talk about imperialism from a neutral perspective. He tried to represent the prejudices, especially projected on the Indians by the English, and it was a response. As a novel, it's considered a response to imperialism as it was justified for long years before the appearance of or the publication of the novel. Is that clear? Okay, so today we are going to move to another text, and this text is a post-colonial text. It means it was written after colonization has ended. And it's going to be another aspect as a novel, as a literary work, representing modernism. It's a post-colonial text, and this text is Chinua Achebe. Text or novel, Things Fall Apart. Before that, there is one last point. I just looked at my notes. There is one last point I want to mention about last time's novel. Because I just looked at my notes and I saw that there is a minus in front of a point. It means I did not mention it. When it's a plus plus on my notes, it means I already mentioned it and discussed it. So give me please a couple of seconds to access my material. Thank you. So, one more point, or actually few more points I want to mention about Ian Foster's novel A Passage to India. So one particular aspect that you need to keep in mind about the modernity and modernism of the novel is that the novel is a polyphonic novel. Polyphonic. It means it's a novel with multiple voices, multiple points of view and perspectives. The observation of the political and social context of India, its spiritual and speculative also aspect is not presented from the point of view of only one voice or one angle. It's rather a combination, different layers of representation. And this aspect in the novel is determined by the point of view from which the action is seen. So, for example, I'll give you an example. Serial Fielding, the British friend of Dr. Aziz, as many readers can actually notice, is presenting the concept of friendship and the difficulty of leading actually an open friendship with Dr. Aziz free of any constraints. From Dr. Aziz's point of view, the novel is taking another quality when it comes to his friendship with Serial Fielding. It means that Dr. Aziz started as a good-natured, innocent, naive character who is eager to please the taste of his British friend, and also to get rid of his rigidity as an Indian man defending his land. Actually, Adela Quested and Mrs. Moore are particular cases in the novel because they have a shallow perspective about India. They come with centered and ready-made ideas about India, its land, and its people. So, for example, Mrs. Moore, she can
Recording in
we
progress.
have different perspectives. We have about the Indian culture and about also possible friendships between different characters. A Passage to India is also from an imperialist point of view, not actually a simple response, but it's also a critique of the British rule of India. The British are not shown all the time as tyrants, and also the Indians are not presented all as savages. So it's a neutral representation about the minus and the plus of each group or community. There is one important aspect and at the same time theme, which is the cultural clash. It's a culture clash. There is a clash there is a conflict between two different cultures. So we have one representative of the rigid and simple-minded Christian English, Mrs. Moore. She shows interest in India, but from her point of view. She sees India as a mysterious land and she doesn't understand its spirituality. She's also attracted how everything in this land, despite its different backgrounds, is a united land. There is a sense of unity. But she has prejudices at the same time of the Indian spirituality. She sees it as a negative spirituality, even though it's an implicit point of view. She doesn't really show it clearly. She doesn't speak it up clearly. And for her, this negative spirituality is seen in the echo incident in the Malabar caves in part 3 of the novel. She finds that it was a mistake to go to a mysterious place as the Malabar culture, and she's discriminated against more and more the Hindu culture, and she responds negatively about the whole trip. So she even blames Cyril Fielding to be friends with Dr. Aziz even after he was accused by sexual assault by Adela Quested. She thinks that it's his role as a British man is to defend Adela Quested regardless of whether she's right or not, since they share the same background, and she feels that probably his friendship with Dr. Aziz, yes, is a betrayal to his identity, his British identity, and his sense of belonging to the empire. The cultural clash is also seen in the trial scene. So there is a sense of drama in the trial scene after the accusation of Dr. Aziz. It seems that this scene brings out the worst in both communities, in both groups, whether the Indians or the English. So the English are acting in an abrupt and brutal, assertive manner, as if they were owning the court. And McBride, one of the judges, has or made actually sort of a racist remark. He talked about the darker races are attracted to the fairer, and there is no exception to this rule. And this is presenting actually a fact of racism. So McBride has a strong belief that the Indians are inferior, and they still think
Recording in progress.
So the answer is actually no from the beginning, and there are many characters in the passage in a passage to India that are quite interested in breaking down these barriers, cultural and identity barriers. So we have first also Dr. Aziz and Fielding and Mrs. Moore, etc. But there is a sense of also dehumanization for the race. So Adela Quested is interested in the culture, but she can't get past her prejudices and ends up accusing Dr. Aziz of assault. Mrs. Moore is accepting this accusation, and Fielding is in a position of pressure. He's pressured at the time of the trial. He wants to side with his friend because he knows that he didn't make any mistake, and at the same time he cares about what the British fellow men, his friends around, would be saying. So he is actually in a middle ground between both, between Adela and Dr. Aziz. So after all, the problem, according to Foster, is this human connection that cannot be easily solved. There are growing challenges and norms of accepting each other are very complex. Also, the novel is a critique to this practice of prejudice and of the weight of the political when it's a context of colonization on the personal. When one people assert that their power is important over another. So in this context, if it were not for this context of colonialism, Foster thinks that this friendship is possible. There must be no barrier between people to be friends, even if they belong to a different background, culturally, socially, and religiously. So it's an open message of humanism, of peace, of connection, and of also lack of prejudice. More important to that is Foster's vision, who sees that any colonized is actually suffering. So for him, when social systems impose a certain hierarchy, he thinks that there is a mixture of roles, and the human connection and human condition, the normal one, that people are friends, would be definitely affected. That's why at the end of the novel, when Fielding is asking Dr. Aziz after the trial whether they can be friends or not, now that he is no longer accused of this assault, he told him, no, not yet. And the two lands in which they are walking are just a parallel. They can't meet at any point. So the only condition that they would meet is that this land will be decolonized and free of its ruler. Is that clear? Good, my ladies. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. Can you give me just a couple of seconds, please? What's your question? You said you have one. Who can answer Yasmin? She said what happened to Adela Quested inside the cave. It seems that you did not attend last time, probably, or you still did not read that part about the novel. So who can answer her? Anyway, so no, she was in a trip to the Malabar caves with Adela Quested, I mean, Mrs. Moore, Fielding, Cyril Fielding, and Dr. Aziz. So at some point, uh, Adela Quested was by herself, and she kind of lost control uh, um, of what was around her. She heard like sort of a boom. She was confused. She saw many men, and at some point she felt that um, she was nearby Dr. Aziz, and she was confused to the point that she falsely accused Dr. Aziz of assaulting her. Is that clear now? You're welcome. Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Before talking about the novel itself, we need to talk about its context, historical and literary context. And we will start with the movement, the trend in which it is classified as a modern or rather postmodern novel, and it's written in a post-colonial context. Is that clear? Yes, it was published in 1958, 1959. So, when we talk about post-colonialism, there is a key word in this word made of two parts, post and colonialism. First, colonialism is the kind of expansion of Europe into the rest of the world during the last 400 years. So we have a center and an empire in the middle carrying a certain relationship of control and influence over other countries. And these countries are considered colonies or margins. That's why we have colonialism, from colonies. Colonial is the adjective, and colonies is the noun. Countries under the influence, control of the center, which is Europe. And the relationship, of course, tended to influence the colonies at different levels: political, economic, cultural, and hierarchical. So we have a European settler considering itself educated and elite, and forming a great center and nation, and would like to influence the other colonies, looking at them as indigenous people who are to be controlled. So they are looking at them from a racial point of view, considering them inferior and exotic. They are the exotic other. So there is an othering process, considering everybody who is not them as other, as they. Is that clear? Yes, Patton, that's correct. So we have a fictional setting, Nigeria in the 19th century, 1800, as colonized by the British, and the publication, of course, was in the 1958-59. So it's literally the publication is after Nigeria was colonized, after the end of colonization. But of course there is a fictional era, 19th century. It's to show how Africa, Nigeria namely, that was colonized, has been under a lot of prejudice, and it's now for Nigeria, through the Nigerian writer, to write back. So as if the colony, the margin is writing back, is responding the West and the empire. This is a very important idea. And this is the core idea of this part of the course. So post-colonialism now, it's actually a way to look at the effects of colonialism on culture and society. So this trend or this movement is concerned with how European nations conquered and controlled what they called indigenous and third world culture, and how these groups, means the third world, have responded and resisted these encroachments. So post-colonialism is at the same time a movement, a trend, and a theory, and at the same time a number of texts that were written from a certain political and cultural perspective. They represent a certain change, and how actually these countries that were colonized went through 3 stages when they did this. So an initial primary awareness of the value of the social and cultural identity, and how the colonized state enforced the colonizer enforced the colonized into a cultural inferiority, social and psychological inferiority. The struggle to show that the ethnic has a cultural and political freedom and autonomy, and a growing awareness of how the cultural can overlap and also show a richness, a certain richness. So this is the core of the novel and of its context. So, of course, when we talk about Chinua Achebe, what would I say? We are talking about a key figure, a master, in a key master actually, in African literature, and in what we call world literature. Of course, Chinua Achebe left us in 2013. He was born in 1930, and he played a major role in founding and developing post-colonial African literature. And he is a significantly important world writer. He's of course a Nobel Prize winner, and Things Fall Apart, 1958, is considering as a groundbreaking novel in the post-colonial trend, and it is still considered to be a must-read. And it was actually translated into more than 50 languages and sold over 12 million copies. Professor Achebe, he's a full professor of literature and African literature, and he has a great talent, and he was recognized not only as a writer, but also as a critical thinker and an essayist, someone who writes essays. And he was focusing extensively on writing about the role of culture in Africa and the social and political significance of analyzing the post-colonial state in Africa. He wrote many essays, and one main essay, An Image of Africa, was a famous critique and a response to what the novelist Conrad wrote, Heart of Darkness. Today, the image of Africa is considered a prominent critique. It's recognized as one of the most important interventions and critiques on Conrad, and it opened the way, it prepared the path for other literary texts to come and to impact, to empower the relations on the 20th century literary criticism. Akede, as a professor and prominent name in post-colonial African literature, actually gave himself a mission. He took it as his own responsibility to write and to represent the African writers in English. What he said about his mission and what's supposed to be every African writer's mission is the following. I would be quite satisfied if my novels, especially the ones I set in the past, did no more than teach my readers that their past, with all its imperfections, was not one long night of savagery from which the first Europeans acting on God's behalf delivered them. So what he's trying to say here is that he doesn't want people from Africa or other people who belong to colonized countries to unesteem themselves, to look at themselves with an inferior point of view. He wants them rather to understand their past, to reconcile themselves with the past. They understand their past so they can represent it better and respond critically and neutrally to the Europeans, the West, that considered itself always a defender of the West and colonization and dehumanizing Africa and other colonies. Is that clear? Chinua Achebe also affirms and insists on the educational role that literature has. For him, literature has a major role in establishing a context to make the Nigerian history and the first encounter between Europe and Africa at the beginning of the century in Things Fall Apart, actually an important text. So for him, the context is to be understood and it's very important for the readers to understand this encounter between the Europeans and the Africans. There were definitely uneasy years preceding independence, and also there were certain disappointment and excitement after Nigeria's sorry, I forgot the word, independence, yes. And also, he thinks that Nigeria's second republic after colonization is a corrupt one because the colonizer left some of its traces in the country, a certain elite believing in the superiority of Europe over Africa. So he wrote many novels actually. No Longer at Ease, 1960, the Nigerian Civil War, in Girls at War, 1972. He wrote also on A Man of the People, 1966, and Anthem in the Savannah, 1987. So all of his texts are actually a concern that has been central to all his work, which is how Nigeria had trouble with its identity after colonization. So in Things Fall Apart, we have one central character, Okonkwo. And Okonkwo has, like any Nigerian man, an individual pride and also a conflict between his self-realization, and also his social responsibility, and there is a difficulty reaching a balance. So in Things Fall Apart, the character of Okongo is meditating hard to overcome his humiliation to win the respect of his Igbo community. Now, this task is very difficult because he's coming back from exile, and his community is actually being influenced more and more by the British presence and by a colonial government, and how Christianity is alienating himself and other men from the Igbo culture and tribal code. Is that clear? Just a second, please. Sorry, there was no voice, right? I just noticed. Okay, so I will repeat what I was saying. I just noticed that there was no voice. The mic was open, but there is a notification that there is an audio problem. I don't know if it's the case for you. No, I reopened the mic, but and it gave me the sign that it was opened. I was talking, but then there was a message saying that there is an audio problem. That's why. So I will repeat what I was saying. So the last point we commented on was that the core of the main point, the main theme of this novel is how Okongo, the main character of the novel, is presenting the Igbo culture, and he is in conflict with this growing Christian British Empire on his community. He's trying hard to gain his own place and influence on his own community, but he doesn't seem to be able to do that. So that's why at the end he actually lost this battle and committed suicide, especially when his own son converted to Christianity. Is that clear? So we'll move to another point in the novel. So it's important to understand the historical context first of the novel. So as I mentioned, the novel was published in 1958, and the critics say that it was a time that often was called the Nigerian Renaissance, because it was a period wherein a large number of very well-known Nigerian writers began to create a powerful number of texts. It was a new trend that actually drew on the traditional oral literature, European literature, and also the changing times in Nigeria and in Africa at large. Wole Soyinka, Ben Okri, Chinua Achebe were actually very famous Nigerian writers, and they had the energy and ideas to create a good and strong Nigerian literature. That's why the context was called Nigerian Renaissance. And Achebe was considered one of the earliest and best novelists to have coming out of Nigeria, modern Nigeria. When the novel was published in 1958, many countries in Africa were still under colonialism. Few countries had already achieved independence, and there was a growing time of change for Africa and Africans. So It was a context of colonialism, of corruption, and of colonial rule. So things fall apart is in particular a focus on the early experience of colonialism. So it took place in the late 1800s, so 19th century, and it depicts the very first days of the British widespread and the British administration. Akebe in the novel is trying to show how the Igbo society at that time of early colonization was going through a huge transformation, a huge period of transition. And Akebe also wants to paint a particular picture about the Igbo culture. It's actually not a primitive, uncultivated, uncultural, and uncultured primitive society. On the contrary, it's a large community, a well-known tribe, and it's actually a strong community that right after the arrival of the white man avoids actually the temptation of the British colonization, and they are trying not to idealize that culture. But at the same time, Akebe is trying to show that colonization has its own mistakes, and also the Igbo culture, despite its strong presence and its culture. So the writer is here regarding himself as trying to be representing a fair picture, and he wants to show that the past of the Igbo culture is also having imperfections. Is that clear? So let's move to another point. So in Things Fall Apart, the British context, the colonizing British context, is presented through the presence of a growing number of officers, of policemen. A whole British system is being imposed on the Igbo society and Igbo culture. So we have two characters representing European Western control and influence on Africa. The Reverend James Smith and one unnamed district commissioner. So two characters. Mr. Smith sees that there should be no room for compromise. So he thinks that his presence is representing a presence for a good cause, and it's an unquestionable presence. And during their introduction to a society very different from his own, the Igbo society, he doesn't recognize any benefit coming from the Nigerians, and he sees that Nigerians are not meant to keep their heritage. He sees that their heritage is actually inferior, savage, and of no interest. And this prejudice is actually coming not from the Igbo culture itself, but from his misunderstanding of a culture different from his. The district commissioner, he is a character named district commissioner. He has no real name. He's not Smith or Adolf or anybody else. So he's simply named the district commissioner. The district commissioner finds himself a very good student of Mr. Smith, and he sees himself also as a leader who has intentions to make these primitive tribes and bring them into a modern era. So both men are actually convinced that the Europeans' values may not be appropriate for these societies, but for them, this Igbo culture and African culture will actually happen and bring a result, no matter how challenging it is at the beginning. The encounter actually between the African culture with this new government and with this new system and with this new tradition is very challenging. And actually, the Igbo culture is revealed to the reader as not as simple as the Westerner thinks. It's actually very complex. So things fall apart here is actually reversing the discourse that what Westerners might think of the Igbo culture or of Africa, like Conrad. So in Things Fall Apart, we have complex characters. They are not flat, they are not stereotypical, and also Akebe, instead of stereotyping the white colonialist as rigid or with only imperialistic intentions, he tries to make us understand how they think, and also he makes also the others from the Igbo culture trying to look as who they are, not as prejudiced and dehumanized by the Westerners. So what really happens in Things Fall Apart is that Okongo's life, the main character in the novel. So this conflict between him and the Igbo culture being influenced more and more by the British society and the British colonial rule. So Okongo is presented as a self-made man. He has, of course, hopes, he has aspirations, he has motivations, he has dreams to be his tribe's leader. And he went through an incident. He actually blew a gun by mistake and murdered another clansman. So he was severely punished by being banished to his motherland. He was actually sent to exile for 7 years. That was the very first step in Okongo's life falling apart. The way also the Igbo culture and values fall apart because when Christianity through colonialism came to the village, the missionaries came and tried to convert some tribe members, and they succeeded to convert some people. So the old tribe members began to question their old faith and their old belief, and they tried also to criticize and disrespect their tribe. They had doubts actually um, about their own beliefs. So the significance of the steps that caused Okongo's life to fall apart, and from which the title of the novel is coming. First, he was punished because of beating his wife during a week of peace. And the boy he has taken care of is actually sentenced to death. Okongo also was punished by being sent to exile for a mistake he did not do on purpose. The growing impact of Christianity, particularly on Noe, his son, and how he abandoned the Igbo faith to join Christianity. Okongo gets up and he is feeling actually betrayed by the Igbo culture that led him to kill a colonialist messenger, and finally kills himself. So these were the steps how his life came to an end. He's seeing his Igbo culture being invaded. He lost his control over his tribe, and he's no longer finding a certain balance. Is that clear? Okay, so now I will give you 10 minutes to pray Maghrib, and then we will come back. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you after 10 minutes break for prayers. Okay, welcome back. تقبل الله. I'm sorry it took me more than 10 minutes, around 15 minutes. So we'll continue. I hope that you are back. Okay, good. تقبل الله. So we are ready to resume our class. Ajmain, thank you. So we are done with the second novel. Do you want us to move to a third novel today, or you want us to stop here and ask questions? Okay. So if you don't have questions, we can continue. Good, Suad. It's a good question. So when you read the novel, you actually focus on its modern aspect. You don't have to read it as if you were having a course of fiction. You don't simply focus on all characters, on all events, on all symbols. No, actually, it's a very focused course. You have, from what you can see, many novels, many short stories, 2 plays. So your focus is going to be on the modern aspect of the text. You see, when I give you the lecture, I don't focus on everything. I focus on how modern the text we are studying is, which aspects classify it as a modern text, whether historical context, literary context, technique used, perspective of the author, etc. Is that clear? Did I answer your question, Suad? Any other question? And I'll send you the material, so you can go back, listen to the lectures, and take your notes, and you have the material. You have to understand what you are doing and preparing. You don't have to learn by heart. So the steps, 2 plays we have. We have 2 more novels to cover and 2 plays. Yes, around 6. Actually, there was one short story, but we have no time to cover it. I used to ask the girls to study it and bring it in the form of bonus questions in the exam. So if you like the idea, we can do that. And so you can think about it. We have The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Usually, I ask the girls to read it, do short research about it, and they are given 1 or 2 questions in the final exam as bonus. So you're under no obligation to accept this. You can think about it. So if you like the idea, I can do it. So now let me move to another novel, another trend. So the next one is Lord of the Flies. Give me a couple of seconds, please. So we'll start by not Lord of the Flies' third novel, but rather Last Orders by Graham Swift. And I will first talk about postmodernism, because this novel is a postmodernist novel. So I'll talk first about postmodernism. Postmodernism actually is a term that includes and encompasses a wide range of developments, whether in philosophy, architecture, art, literature, and all aspects of culture. Postmodernism is actually made, as you can see, from two parts, modernism and post. So it's the period of time that came after modernism. That's why it's post. And it started around 1940s, and its peak, its climax, was around the 60s and 70s. Critics look at postmodernism as a reaction to modernism. They want to refer to the decline that took place in art, intellectual life, cultural thought, or organized principle. It was a reaction to the decline and the lack of artistic, intellectual, cultural, and organized principles of the world around. So the different aspects of this decline and lack of organization took place after the Second World War. So we cannot actually have a defined definition of postmodernism, because there is a sort of little agreement of the concepts and characteristics and ideas within postmodernism. But we can say that first it's a reaction to modernism. It started around 1940s and it reaches its climax in the 60s and 70s, and it's a reaction against modernism to show how there was a huge growing decline of anything like organized or thoughtful when it comes to art, culture, or literature in general. So our focus, of course, is not on all aspects of postmodernism, but rather on the postmodernist literature. For the postmodernist literature, it contains, of course, a huge range of concepts and ideas. First, it's a reaction or also a response to modernism, modernist literature and its ideas. It's a response to the technological advances that were taking place by that time, how the diversity of cultures led to cultural pluralism. It means small groups within a larger society and how they maintain their culture and their identity. And there is sort of reconceptualizing. There is just putting concepts again, revising what was already thought as finite and final as given, taken for granted regarding society and history. We can find that at some point postmodern and modern literature overlap. They have like things in common. They have few similarities. First of all, the point of view So all stories in modernist and postmodernist literature are told from an objective, omniscient point of view. Both literatures, explore certain external reality. So they depart from the external reality to examine the inner state of mind and state of consciousness of characters, and there is a growing disbelief in this unit of time, compact narrative, compact character construction. So there is certain fragmentation that reflects the fragmentation taking place in the society after the Second World War. The common themes of postmodern literature are irony, black humor, playfulness, and there are many techniques combined together, multiple also elements when it comes to the postmodern literature. There is also an important technique, so it's the metafiction. It's like writing about writing, often used to determine the authority of the author and to introduce stories in unique ways. It means you can read a story or any literary postmodern work, and the writer tells you that he is writing a story. So it's like writing about writing. And this technique was used to show that the author has certain authority on the text. It's not the text leading the author, but rather the author leading the text. There is also this belief that there is something out of the ordinary while everything remains the same. I didn't get your question. Suad. She means, you mean. So, the novel is written by the British writer Graham Swift, and it is set in one place where certain characters meet. They are friends and they start remembering a long journey in the back while they are burying their best friend. So the location is actually fragmented. There is, in terms of time, it's like a shift between the past and the present. Did I answer your question? What's your question, Afrah? No, their date of birth is not as important as their literary style. I'm not interested about your knowledge about the writer at the personal level, like when was he born, where did he live. Okay, you can know about these things, but their style, their literary style, why did they write such novels, and the context, everything we mentioned, the movement, and in which the what we call it, the novel is set, the same way I explain things. Okay, so I think I'll stop here for today, and we'll continue inshallah next Monday inshallah. So we can start the novel and then move to another novel next time. So I already talked about postmodernism, and I'll just start talking about the novel itself right away. So till I see you inshallah on Monday, take care, enjoy your weekend, and good luck with your other lectures. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Afrah, and all the other girls. Last orders, Graham Swift. Yes, see you inshallah on Monday, Bismillah ta'ala. So enjoy your weekend. Good luck with your other lectures if you happen to have any, and all the best. Fi amanillah. You're welcome.